Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink.
I got you.
Let's go.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition here of the Man of Steel podcast. Where, of course, here's truly Charles the Prodigy Ritchie right now, as we are on this prime time edition here of the Man of Steel podcast. I know it's been a while. Right now, the Steelers. Right now,
I am Baptiste Loiseau, the cello master of Rémi Martin.
One game so far to try and clinch up the AFC North. Right now, we are in the third quarter of the Browns versus Giants in the Meadowlands right now. It is 13-3 in favor of the Browns right now. Daniel Jones, who was listed on the injury report, he was not available for tonight's game. He was rolled out in this contest. As we look at it, starting in his place for the G-Men for tonight, try to see if they can help out the Steelers tonight, help clinch the division. It is Colt McCoy right here. Colt McCoy, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, in his NFL career, he was drafted in the third round by the Browns, going up against his former mates here in his former franchise. So trying to help the Giants secure and get closer to the NFC East division title. As we take a look at it right now, in the NFC East, we had seen earlier in the day that the Washington football team, they have lost to the Seattle Seahawks. And then on the other side of it, too, when you look at it, too, the Dallas Cowboys, by the way, who are still having some slim hope alive right now to try and get a chance at keep their divisional hopes alive. They beat the 49ers 41-33 at home. But right now, the main important stuff right now, Steelers right now still trying to win the AFC North division title. It's just a simple Browns loss or a Steelers win. And also, too, with the Kansas City Chiefs being the New Orleans Saints earlier in the day, too, as we look at it right now, in order for the Steelers to clinch by the simplest way, plain and simple. Chiefs need to lose the rest of their games. Steelers have to win out, no questions asked. Or the Steelers would go 2-0-1, and the Chiefs would be 1-2. The going 2-0-1 would put the Steelers at 13-2-1, while the Chiefs would finish at 13-3 should the Chiefs lose out. So they would have a half game better than the Kansas City Chiefs, but I doubt that's going to happen right now. Again, if you guys want to follow me on social media, you can definitely do so on my Twitter and Instagram at Prodigy Ritchie. Then you can also check me out on my Twitter for the Man of Steel podcast at Man of Steel CGR, at Man of Steel Nation on Instagram. We got a lot to get into right now for this. Basically, Bob Pompiani, you saw me guys share a post earlier today on my Facebook page. The Steelers looking for a feel-good win tomorrow, and no doubt about it. I mean, when you look at everything that's been going on with this team, I mean, one of the most headlines of the story has been the drops right now by the guy who they've been trying to get going here is Deontay Johnson. As we look at it right now, I mean, Deontay Johnson, he leads the team in targets with 113. He has right now the ninth most drops on the team. I mean, well, he has the ninth most clutch percentage on his team at 61.1%. And above him is Eric Ebron at 61.4%. Eric Ebron, who's been a little bit disappointing down the stretch, to say the least right now. I mean, for this team, when you really look at it and everything that has been going on, I mean, this is a team right now who has really been kind of hurting a little bit. I'm not so sure if it's been more so a point to the fact that they had to play 3 games in 12 days. I mean, a lot of people will definitely continue to bring up that and try and make some sort of little fuss out of that. But I do know this at the end of the day right now. As we look at it here, I just like to think right now what we got to do is just take this thing one game at a time. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger is saying it best. I mean, you have to kind of like realize you still have 3 games left. I mean, to kind of sharpen things out. I mean, you're still in control of your own destiny as far as the division. But right now, as far as like still trying to get that first round bye, it's probably a 10% chance right now and just kind of give everyone an in-game update right now on the Giants and Browns game right now. Giants just went 4-0 right now, and the Browns are getting ready to get the ball back, being pinned deep, and it looks like past their 10-yard line. We'll see what happens here, but they're trailing by 10 points. Remember, the Cowboys did win today, keeping their divisional hopes barely alive right now, as Dallas Cowboys in that sloppy FC East, they're 1-3, but right now, I mean, what they got going for them is that they're 4-6. Hopefully, they'll try to be able to win out, and we'll see what happens here. Washington football team is still the lead dog right now in the division at this point in time. So when you look at like their magic number right now to try and clinch division, when you really look at it, I think they need about 2 games, I want to say. So we'll keep you posted on that. But just a lot of stuff to be fighting for right now as we look at it. And here we are. I mean, this has been like a tale of two cities, hasn't it? I mean, when you look at the Steelers team, I think when you start really looking at the flaws of how this team started to really start to come unglued at the seams, if you will, I probably have to say starting back against the Cowboys game more so. Not so much against the Tennessee Titans, despite the fact that they had a 20-point lead in that game. That was also a game, don't forget, nose tackle Tyson Alalalu. He was out for a little bit after a while, and I'm not sure if it was a hamstring or ankle. I forget what it was. But when you really look at, basically in those times when you looked at, since that Titans game, Tyson Alalalu, who was missing for a little bit. Basically going into that game, he did have a knee injury following later on. He barely played a few snaps against the Ravens. So, yeah, it was a knee injury. He was out for about a few weeks. Then you start seeing some gaps in the run game right there. You saw them give up a lot of yardage on the ground versus the Cowboys right there. And then I think the other game, too, when you really look at it, then you could also say the Ravens, followed by the Washington football team, and, of course, the Bills. And here's the biggest thing that's really disturbed me with the Steelers when we look at them this year. Basically, one of the biggest things, too, I think that's really been alarming. The last 2 games, they have been outscored by 26 points, 11-37 in the second half. For a team who's done pretty well in the second half of games, they're usually outscoring their opponents by 30 points, 146-116. Again, last 2 games in the second half being outscored 11-37. That is just not very good, reliable football right there. And that's just showing me right now. It's a team who's starting off good because we see the makings of it. We see the recipes, what they're able to do in the first half. This is a team who needs to do a better job finishing strong, if you ask me, if they're going to make any kind of deep run. A lot of that people will definitely continue to point to the drop passes by Deontay Johnson, Eric Ebron, and so forth, with this team. Because when you look at it, too, as far as, like, the overall drops, it's definitely been an eye-opener. And, of course, Randy Fichtner and Mike Tomlin still having faith in him, of course. But, this is just something that this just cannot happen right here. When we look at it. And just trying to find out right now what this team is going to be made of. Because, honestly, this is a team right now. This is a big turning point in the season right now. Should the Browns be able to win this game, the Steelers, for whatever reason, they get upset against the Bengals, who the Steelers just rallied off 11 straight on them. That's going to be like hell freezing over. And Deontay Johnson, he leads the team in drops with 12, followed by Ebron with 7. And one guy who's really starting to concern me a little bit, too, starting to get a case of the drops, is Chase Claypool. Now, I mentioned Chase Claypool, too, when you look at this team right now. Chase Claypool, he's barely at over 59.5%, nearly 60% clutch percentage. which is really starting to be a little scary right there. I mean, so his targets have been starting to go down too. I mean, the guys who are really targeted is Deontay Johnson at 113, followed by Juju Smith-Schuster at 101. Then you got Chase Claypool and Eric Ebron. So, I mean, that's the only guy who I'm really starting to throw in the mix on that. And we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But right now, I personally feel like Mike Tomlin's chances for like a possible like a coach of the year or Ben Roethlisberger's shot at MVP pretty much going out the window at this point. And this is not a team right now who a lot of people are really starting to buy into much anymore. I mean, a lot of people are really looking at this. If they don't get any of these things done, yell on the fact that you do not have a legit running game to back anything up, it's not going to really go much farther. And I think Joe Starkey of 93.7 The Fan, who writes for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, he made a very fair point a week ago when the Browns were able to thankfully lose to the Ravens on Monday night, which still kept the Steelers up by 2 games in the division, which is a big reason why they still need their magic number at 1 game to clinch the division for the simple fact that the Browns are 2-3 in the AFC North. And that's where we stand at right now. If you guys want to feel free and leave me any of your questions here on the Mass Steel podcast, please do so. You can definitely hit me up on Twitter at MassSteelCGR and on Instagram at MassSteelNation. You also keep it right here. Feel free to tag me right here on my page if you guys like at Prodigy Richie. I'll definitely be able to answer whatever questions you got. Feel free to write down a list of questions for the next show. And by the way, I am going to be having a schedule change too, by the way. So I will be probably on Mondays, it's going to be at 8 p.m. and on Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. With the exception of tomorrow, I'm not going to do an 8 p.m. podcast simply because the game is going on, but I will have a post-game show hopefully like right after the game or the next day, by the way. So again, I want to hear your thoughts, your concerns right now. What do you think is standing in the Steelers' way right now of not only trying to secure this division, but still have any hopes of a first-round bye, make a deep playoff run? Is it more so that the offense is really starting to become too predictable? Also on the defensive side, I mean, another thing that we looked at too, I mean, like the last few games, I mean, also too, when you look at the sacks, I mean, which is fine. I mean, they had 1 sack on Josh Allen last game. I mean, they're averaging 3.5 sacks a game per season. But when you really look at it too, that the pass rush has kind of slowed down a little bit. I mean, when you really look at it, in the month of December, they have 7 sacks in 3 games. So that's barely a little over 2 sacks per game right there in its own right. So we'll continue to see what happens right now. Browns are marching right now. They're nearing the halfway mark of the field right now. It is second, and I want to say about 2 yards right now for the Browns. They're up by 10 points over the Giants. Remember, should the Giants upset the Browns somehow, some way, is 2nd and 2 right now with 2:24 left to go in the third. Steelers wrap up the division. If not, Steelers will have to try and do it themselves tomorrow or walk a murderous row. We got a dangerous team against the Colts. And then for the Browns' next opponent following this game, after the Giants, they got to go up against the New York Jets right now, who actually just, by the way, won their very first game of the year. So think about that. If the Steelers do not take care of business tomorrow, the Browns got to go. They stay in New York facing the JETS, Jets at 12 p.m. The Steelers would have to try and win the game against the Colts. That will be on CBS game, and that will be a 12 p.m. start. We'll be having Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. They will be having the call on that game, from what I heard on here. So we'll see. But right now, looking very dangerous right now for this team as we take a look at it. Trying to get themselves back together, trying to get themselves in the winning frame of mind. And you really start to wonder right now. I mean, here's another alarming stat that's really kind of bothered me. So in the Killer Bees era, from 2013 for 2017, when they had all three of them together with Ben Roethlisberger, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, in the month of December under Mike Tomlin with that group, Steelers were 18-3, 857 win percent. Since then, since 2018, since they pretty much disbanded, they have been 5-8, 385 win percent, 3 games under 500. Just give you an idea how important those guys were. And I love Tomlin, but at the same time, too, this is stuff right now where you got to really pay attention to, too. I mean, great coach, did a lot with what he did without Ben Roethlisberger, and most saw with defense and how they had to try and get creative, try and making guys like Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges comfortable of all people, which was very crazy at that point. So I think that's the thing that's unfortunately for Mike Tomlin, how he's to be judged. I mean, yeah, he's a great coach, but finishing in the month of December, I think is going to be extremely vital for him. Really is, because at the end of the day, I mean, like they always say in sports, not always how you start, but how you finish. I'm not by any means trying to like read between the lines and try and say that Mike Tomlin's job is at stake. That's not what I'm saying. But you do got to look at a fact, too. A guy like Mike Tomlin, his legacy is going to be measured more so if he doesn't turn around in the next year or two, finishing down the stretch right now, where he had 2 occasions where he had a chance to three straight occasions control your own destiny. I believe the Steelers at that point back in 2018, when we look at it, I mean, when they had that historic collapse right there to give the game, to give the division to the Ravens eventually, basically at that point, they had about 2 losses. They were 7-2-1 after they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then the rest of the way, they went to 2-4, 2-4 to finish 9-6-1. So that's where it starts. And like I said, Tomlin, I think, is very damn good. I'm not denying what he's done for this team, but at the same time, you got to start questioning right now, is there an issue down the stretch? I mean, is he starting to become a choking head coach? I feel. I don't want to see this guy go anywhere. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I mean, this guy is a coach for a while, but at some point, too, when you got a guy like Ben Roethlisberger who's actually considering possibly hanging it up, if he cannot perform at like his highest level, I mean, which we've seen shots of Ben Roethlisberger still able to do stuff with his arm. The only problem is struggling with the deep ball. I really start to wonder sometimes right now where this gets fixed at. Because at some point, you do have to hold some culpability here. It really starts to wonder, is it lack of leadership some ways? I mean, down the stretch. I mean, who's not being held accountable? I mean, is it true that we are seeing a guy like Ben Roethlisberger finally got the freedom that he wants, and now people are starting to look and starting to see, I mean, what you get with this guy and trying to run too free, make decisions. And not only that, too, the interceptions are starting to pile on Ben Roethlisberger. He's up to 9 interceptions for the season. So that's where you got to be very concerned here right now. And just swing things back over to the Browns game right now. They're in the red zone right now. They're first and goal at the Giants' 6-yard line right now. Just converted the first down up 13-3, looking to go up by 17 points right now. And man, I gotta tell you, just watching them play against the Ravens right there, despite the losing effort, this team is dangerous. And speaking of the Ravens, by the way, in case anyone is wondering right now, the Dolphins own the 7th wildcard spot. So for the Dolphins to clinch a playoff spot right now, who both the Ravens and the Dolphins right now, the Browns just scored a touchdown right now, 19-3, about ready to paying the PA attempt, trying to go up 20-3. So they're up right now. It's looking real bad right now. More than likely, we're in the early fourth quarter right now. As we take a look at things right now, I'm watching the game on NFL Mobile. I got the sound muted, so I won't be flagged for copywriting. But basically, the Miami Dolphins right now, they own the tie. They're ahead of the Ravens right now on the technicality when we look at things. And right now, both teams in the AFC, they are 9-5 at this point. The only difference is the Dolphins are ahead of the Ravens because their conference record, they are 6-4, and the Ravens are 6-5. So for the Miami Dolphins to clinch a playoff spot right now, as we take a look at it, they need a combined number of 3 games, I want to say. Right now, aside from that, too, with everything going on with the Baltimore Ravens here, for that matter, as we look at things right now, the Dolphins, they just basically own the tiebreaker as far as the AFC conference record. So they'll need about at least 3 games, I want to say. The rest of the way. Should they finish in a tie, the Ravens and the Dolphins, they finish with the same record. Ravens get the wild card on the strength of victory. They are at 417 win percent. So basically, for the Ravens to get into the playoffs right now, they just need to win out. If they win out, they're the AFC wild card playoff team. They're the 7th and final seed. If the playoffs were to start next week, it'd be the Steelers versus Dolphins. Like I said, Baltimore Ravens, they win out. They get the wild card over the Dolphins because of strength of victory. Their strength of victory is 417, and the Dolphins is at 267. So that's something to be paying attention to right there. As much as I'm thankful for the Ravens handling the Browns last Monday night, did not make it look easy, but at the same time, too, Steelers need that division at the end of the day. Look at some other headlines going into this game right now. The injury report in this contest. We had for the Steelers running back James Conner, who did not practice and was limited in practice for most of this week. Let's go and take a look. Let's go double check on that injury report right now. James Conner, who, by the way, right now had a quadriceps injury. He did not practice and limited practice the rest of the week. He is questionable. Backup guard Kevin Dotson, who's dealing with a shoulder injury. He did not practice out all week. He is out for the game. So really huge if James Conner will be able to come back in or not. As we take a look at things right now. And then for the Bengals side right now, they got their starting quarterback for the moment, Brandon Allen. He is out with a knee injury. In his place will be Ryan Finley, according to the NFL on ESPN, Am Schefter. And safety Brandon Wilson is questionable with a hamstring injury right now. So when we look at Ryan Finley, he is 0-1 in his NFL career. His sole start came against the Steelers back last season in Week 11 when the Steelers were in Cincinnati at that point in that contest. When we look at everything here, no, excuse me, week number 12. Back in week 12 of that year, Steelers traveled to Cincinnati. They beat the Bengals in that contest right there. Yeah, and And you know the rest was history after that. But that was a game where Duck Hodges came in to relieve Mason Rudolph. Remember where Mike Thomas said that the team needed a spark? We also saw right there Benny Snell have a good game in that contest a year ago. Basically in that game, who did a good job closing out that contest right there. And in that game on the ground, Benny Snell for the Steelers, he had 21 carries for 98 yards. Who had 5 days at the office right there. Devin Hodges was the guy who was able to save the day, throwing for 118 yards with a touchdown, no interceptions in that contest right there. And you saw the Steelers able to sack Ryan Finley 4 times for 34 yards in that contest right there. Steelers were able to win that game by a touchdown, 16-10. They allow DK Pittsburgh Sports states that the over-under on sacks for Ryan Finley is at 8. Steelers are trying to make it 12 in a row, dating back to week number 14 on December 13th of 2015, where the Steelers beat the Bengals in Cincinnati. And also in regards to Deontay Johnson, according to Randy Fichtner, who Jay Lally spoke to, he said this about Deontay Johnson. He wants to win, and he wants to do things right. He was very professional about it. As Fichtner said of Johnson's reaction to the benching after he dropped 2 of the first 3 passes thrown to him against the Bills, I knew that anyone given, we probably could have walked over after a series and said, hey, man, let's get back in there. Let's go. I pat him on the bleep before he went in. He said, hey, man, we're going to be okay. Get yourself ready because you're going to start the second half, and let's go. More so referring to the Bills game in this case. And then Mike Tomlin also added this about Deontay Johnson. He didn't pout. He waited for his next opportunity. It was when his next opportunity came, he was productive. Tomlin said of Johnson's benching, we will move forward. So let's see what happens right here. Like I said, the biggest thing where I really get concerned with, I mean, I don't know if it's really much of a lack of fatigue right now going on with this team. When you look at the fact, too, are you still buying into the fact that they had to play 3 games in 12 days? I can kind of see that, but at the same time, too, at the end of the day, it still comes down to rhythm for me here. And I don't really like making excuses when you got a guy like Tomlin who very thin and excuses. It's not what you want to be doing right now, but I do believe right now this team has got a lot to fight for. Anytime you can control your destiny for the 3rd straight year in a row where you control your own destiny, last thing you want to do is have another historic collapse. I just don't think right now a guy like Tomlin, you want to have your legacy start to be stained like that because of that. That's really scary right there. Then you really got to start thinking, should the Steelers be looking for a quarterback successor to Ben Roethlisberger sooner rather than later? A lot of people have been maintaining the fact, too, that it's probably been because he's been dealing with a partial knee injury, with possibly playing his foot. I hardly buy into that, to be honest. Yeah, I don't think that has anything to do with the accuracy, but they have to be a lot more creative than going for these quick slants on 3rd or 4th and shorts. Let's go ahead and get to my keys to the game for this contest right here. I'm going to go with key number 1, special teams defense. Bengals ranked 6th in kick return yards for 706 yards, averaging 25.2 yards per return, and have 1 touchdown where ranks 3rd. Remember the last game, the Steelers, I thought, did a real nice job of paying the Bengals deep in their own territory for most of that game. So if the Steelers can find a way to play good defense on special teams, I think that would be a good tone setter for this game tomorrow right now. Be sure the Bengals will be doing everything they can to be fired up. Key number 2 in this game, keep the Bengals run game grounded. They're 29th on the ground with 1,200 yards, 3.8 yards per attempt, and the Steelers are 6th in stopping the run and are allowing 4.2 yards per attempt. So that's going to be a key thing right there. When you look at guys like Joe Mixon, Giovanni Bernard, those guys definitely want to try and contain. Then you also want to contain T. Higgins on the receiving corps. He leads the team in receiving with 778 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also has 806 scrimmage yards off 63 touches, which I believe ranks 2nd. So he'd be a key guy right there. on the offense, as Craig Wolf would like to say, give me some of that Canadian bacon right there with Matt Canada. Dig into his bag of chips with some special running sweeps. I like to see some trickery in this game to kind of take some of the pressure off Ben Roethlisberger in this running game. So if we could go back to what we saw earlier season, I think those are some recipes for success, and that's going to do it for this game day preview edition here, prime time of the Man Steel podcast. Once again, you can follow me on social media on Twitter and Instagram at Project Richie. Man Steel podcast on Twitter is at Man Steel CGR and at Man Steel Nation on Instagram. As always, don't be trolling, be rolling. Here we go, sirs. Here we go. I go.